Hi everyone, it's Genevieve from Kangaroo Time. Thank you so much for watching the recording of our webinar right now. At Kangaroo Time, we create software for childcare centers. We're an all-in-one solution that helps centers grow their business, connect with their families, and effectively manage their staff members. Our software will help you automate your entire business, including payments, billing, check-in and check-out for children, keeping track of staff hours. We also do classroom automation, and this gives your teacher prompts while they're in the classroom to update parents on feedings, diaper changes, and developmental milestones. And it really hardwires the parents into the early education experience, and they get a beautiful feed of content right on their smartphones. So if you're looking for billing and a payment solution, a parent app, or staff scheduling, contact Kangaroo Time today. Thanks so much and enjoy the webinar.
The webinar is now live. Hello, everybody. I'm going to share my screen, and it never, ever fails. So I live here in a high-rise. Can you see my screen, Corey?
Yes, I see your screen.
All right. I'm showing off our YouTube channel, which this video after we do this, Genevieve will do a few edits. She'll probably have to blur out some things that I say because I'm always so appropriate. But guys, I want to warn everybody. I live in a high rise here, and they let us know that between this time and this time there will be a fire alarm testing. So there's like a voice that will come over. It's okay. I'm going to go on mute when that happens, hand it over to Corey, because they just let us know that they're about to start testing. So, so yeah, the demo gods, they never, ever, ever fail us. All right, everybody, where are we coming in from? I always set my chat up. We got Denver, we got Connecticut. Use those abbreviations, really challenge me. Brownsville, Texas, I've actually been there. Corey, we might have like a Texas heavy group.
That's cool.
Cool. All right, well, let me do a little bit of housekeeping, and then Corey, I'm gonna hand over to you. So hi everybody, my name is Scott Wayman. I'm the CEO and founder at Kangaroo Time. We thank you all so much for joining this webinar today with the great Corey Berg, who is just named the Director of the Year by the Texas Association of Young Children. Congratulations. That is huge, Corey. We are so happy for you. That's awesome. We'll get started in a bit, but as everyone is joining, I'd like to share some information about us, Kangaroo Time. We know a lot of people who are new to our webinars, so I'd like to acquaint you with our company just real quickly. We create software for early education schools, childcare centers that help to optimize your business, and they help to connect you to the families that you serve. So if you're looking to improve your childcare center, we have some great resources on our blog. Please go to kangarootime.com/blog. We have posts about increasing your enrollment, your retention rates, creating a financial plan, how to select your CCMS. We know who the best is out there, but we know it's a very personal decision. Again, that's kangarootime.com/blog. And our crack marketing team has set it up so that you don't get alert fatigue when you sign up and you activate alerts. You'll just get a little notification in Chrome when we have new content available. Also, please join our YouTube group, our YouTube channel. We have now 42 videos. Some of them are us being crazy at Kangaroo Time. You'll get a taste of our culture, but more than anything, when COVID started on March 19th, Genevieve and I decided we would shut down all of our growth spend because we just didn't feel like it was appropriate. We felt like we were embarking on the most tumultuous time in the history of our segment. And it was time to go heads down and get content for all of our owners, our directors, our teachers in the classroom, those of you that are trying so hard to build bodies, souls, and minds. This was the inflection time. And we went to work. It's been great for us. It's been a great learning experience for us. So we're here to build beautiful products for early educators. In no way, shape, or form are we here to, push people into products that they don't need. But it's been a great time to connect. It's been very organic. And what we're seeing from our users, our segment, our world, is that we've propped up this economy. We are the people out there that have shown resilience and sustenance and allowed people to get back to work. I think it's really interesting to see all of you and the role that you played in getting us back against this crazy pandemic. So with that said, please, guys, we're here to help the industry. I encourage you to share our resources with your teams, invite them to upcoming webinars, invite them to our Facebook group, which, by the way, it's every time I do this, I think I'm being punked, but I'll show our Facebook group, which is KT Childcare Connect, and then somebody will send me a crazy message and it will pop up. But KT Childcare Connect, please join, guys. It's a great resource for all of you. It's a place where our team of digital storytellers will share data. We will share videos here coming up in the future. And there are a great number of conversations that happen in KT Childcare Connect. So we love having you there. We love the conversations. And then again, make sure that you connect with and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's a wealth of information. And again, it's super subtle. When you turn on the alarm or the notifications, you'll get alerted on new content. But we love having you here. And for you being here and for signing up, you will receive certificates for continuing education. Those come typically the day after the webinar. So don't email us. If you are signed up and you are here, you will get a follow-up email with the attached video so you can share it. If you have questions on this webinar, please put them in the QA area in Zoom. So click QA, enter the question. If there's something that Genevieve and I can answer while Corey is delivering and waxing poetic, we'll do that. If not, we'll save them for afterwards, for a little QA time. Your microphones and cameras are turned off. Again, this will be recorded. So Corey is an experienced early education specialist and a manager with over 20 years of experience in the field of early education. She is currently the director at Hope Day School in Dallas, Texas. She was just named, hang on. I gotta get this right. She was just named the Director of the Year by the State of Texas Association of Young Children. Congratulations. Amazing. I do have crowd sounds here too, but let's get started. Corey, great to have you. Again,
Thank
20
you.
years experience in the field. We are excited about your topic today, which is how directors can have awareness of their employees' fears during this time and the challenging situations this may produce, and using compassion to build bridges. Thank you, Corey.
Okay. All righty. You can see me. You have me walking on the wild side. I'm just like, this is worse than waiting for licensing to show up, is knowing that you're about to have a fire drill. Because you've got a bunch of directors watching you, and if you don't follow protocol, Scott, I don't know, it might hurt your business. So just so you know.
Okay, yes, thank you. I will turn my camera off and dive under the table for sure.
Whatever, we're just gonna act like we don't see. We're just not gonna see. Okay, so so I'm a director. I have been a teacher. I have been a trainer, and So, and most importantly, I am a director right now, just like many of y'all. And I have been open through the entire pandemic. I was one of the centers that was open for essential child care. The pandemic started earlier than March, but for most of us, that's when it really hit and where we really felt it. And so I just started kind of sharing my story of what I went through as a director and trying to figure out these protocols. And I'm so thankful. I see some of my friends that I've made along the way here today. And it's been a real growth process. And I've noticed and observed over this 7-month period a lot of things that I think can help serve us as we go forward. It's definitely a hard time. And I just want to start here by saying, I just realized each one of you, wherever you are and whatever you're doing, has a huge burden on your shoulders. Whether you're in, we have a couple people on here I can see who aren't exactly in early education, but wherever you are, it's hard. I'm going to speak specifically to directors, okay? So prior to the pandemic, okay, prior to the middle of March of 2020, it already was pretty freaking hard, wasn't it? Every day, we have struggles to maintain. Every night we're like, okay, if we hear a phone call and we wonder who's calling in sick and how am I going to meet my ratios the next day. We deal with turnover in our field. It's more than any other kind, specifically the child care centers that work the 7 to 6 or longer hours than that. It's so hard. As directors of child care centers, we do such a wide variety of duties. It's not like a public school or larger schools where we are the director, we're often the curriculum guide at the same time, we are the secretary, we're the accountant, we're like doing all of these things at once. As well as the soft skill stuff of working with staff and children and parents, and the stress on directors moment by moment. Sometimes it can be pretty tough because you're pulling on, different qualities and skills in one given day. Those dual roles that we play. And the number one thing we do know that our field has quite a long ways to go in terms of pay for everybody. And the challenge with that is, as long as the pay is where it is, it creates other life struggles for people. Things like not being able to keep your car maintained, or just a lot of different things. Y'all who are directors, you know what I'm talking about. The kinds of things that our staff have such difficulties with. It leads right into the staffing. If we're not able to offer health insurance, it can create issues in the staffing with that. So it's just very hard. And beyond that, our field has a little bit of a ways to go in creating more adequate training for leaders. Already, it's hard to find good business trainings. I mean, just the nuts and bolts of business. But even the things on working with staff and motivating employees, we have a ways to go with that. I don't know how many trainings that I have gone to on like developing a workplace culture or on motivating employees, and it is about what kind of cute things that you can buy for your staff. Well, I don't know any other industry where bosses have such a high, pressure put on their shoulders that they need to buy gifts for their employees in order for them to work well. That just, yeah, we want to do fun things and that. But, if that's our main way of motivating employees, that's kind of like using stickers to try to motivate kids, right? There's more to it. I mean, that's going to be a surface level motivation. And in the end, we can't motivate people who don't want to be motivated. So it's tough. We wear a lot of responsibility on our shoulders. This is still just in normal times for the business, for curriculum, parent happiness. So it's tough. Then in March, this pandemic hit, and we were in crisis mode, okay? And I don't know about you, but I think it was about 3 or 4 weeks then that I realized the model for how directors and teachers relate and support to each other, the one that we used prior to the pandemic, which already was not working well, was really not working. And I'm going to give you an example, okay? So for those of us, I mean, I think it was the same for all of us, whether we were open or closed. We were in crisis in figuring out whether or not these businesses were going to be able to continue, how we were going to pay our employees. I mean, it was, from the business standpoint, the highest pressure it could be. And then the PPP came through, and I remember on this week, you know, we're filling out the application, which we've never done anything like that before. And we even had an accountant working with us, and it was tough. So I can't even imagine what it was like for those of you, you know, smaller centers who are trying to fill out that application by yourself. And in the middle of that, which was all about timing, right? And we were all trying to like submit it. So we didn't know if we were going to get it. I had multiple staff members that week who were coming and kind of like laying their stress out on the desk of the other director. And it was like, oh my gosh, like in normal times, I wish I would do whatever I can to help you. But right now, my best thing is to focus on getting this PPP loan so we can all save our jobs. They had no idea what we were doing behind the scenes, right? And the reason that those employees were coming like that and kind of expecting me to solve and handle the whole mental health of the entire organization was that, like many of you, like all of us in the field, we've created this hierarchy, right? Where it is like the director is at the top and it's like you're leading downwards. And so anybody who's on the bottom, it's like all my needs need to be met by the people up above. It's their job to fix it. Now, that comes from this little piece of truth, which is as leaders, we have a lot of impact on those around us. But that doesn't mean we need to have this hierarchy model, right? And as I've gone through this and had to feel this pressure, as many of you, I don't think I'm alone in this. I'm just an average director like y'all are. Maybe that didn't come out right, but you know, we're in this together. We're dealing with the same challenges. That we need a new model for how we relate. Because in the end, I'm going to be a better director the more that my staff are, you know, healthy, happy, thriving. But they are going to be better the more that I'm thriving. So we have to have more of a mutuality and not that hierarchy. And also, and this is the hard part, on some level, we have to be responsive for our own self-care. We can't lay that on somebody else to do for us. Because if we lay that at the feet of other people who are also trying to care for their own stuff, it's just not going to happen. So let me just tell you how I came to this, because I've been doing webinars. I have a page, ECE from the Heart with Corey Berg on Facebook, and you can look at that. And I do quite a few like pep talks, things like that. And as I was going through the pandemic and figuring out stuff, okay, I need help in learning about this. I read a ton of books. I read like 2 or 3 books a week. And so it started out, I was trying to handle the concept of fear. And somehow fear led me to the concept of self-care. And so I did whole long studies on this, and I'd put up talks every week. And then we got to the point where I kind of knew a little bit of how to handle my own fear and the staff fear. I learned more about self-care, but it really got me to a study on joy, because I realized we'd gotten to a point in the pandemic, and this was like towards the end of the summer, where all I can say is we've gotten all the protocols down, and it just started to feel like drudgery, like nobody was happy. And it was just tough. And I realized what we need is some joy, like the fun of it. And how can I do that? And so I started reading some books on it, and it led me to a book called, I forget what it is. It was a book by the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu on joy. Two people who have been through horrific trauma in their lives, okay, and are great spiritual leaders. And both of these leaders said, if you really want to get to joy on a deeper level, you got to start with compassion. And it just made me think about it because there's any other kind of joy without compassion towards yourself and towards others. Any other kind of joy is really superficial. It's just like candy. It's not going to last. So this is deep, deep spiritual work. I'm like rushing through it, but compassion. So it started making me think about what would happen if we really use compassion as the starting point for everything that we do in our schools and in our centers. Okay. This is life-changing things. Okay. So we've got compassion. Now, added to this, what's really important, because everybody is under stress. Let's go back to the beginning of what I had talked about a couple minutes ago. Everybody is feeling triggered. We are all feeling like there's not enough of us to help everybody around us. We're all worried a bit about the future. We're all worried about fear or about our health in this. Many of us are worried about money. So it is just put all of us in this state of protection and fear. And so when people come to us, and let's just say in the center, there's an interaction between an administrator and a teacher needs off to handle something personal. And the administrator is like, okay, I can give you half a day, because they know we don't have enough staff to handle a certain situation. And if we do, we may have to break a pod and pull a teacher from another team onto here. And now what if we're bringing COVID that might be there, from this team onto this team? Everybody it's triggering our brains. So this is what happens, and this is where the brain science is really important, okay? It is everybody's first response. When you feel that moment of just like tension or conflict or not getting your way or not getting your needs met, it's not possible for us. It's just not possible for us to think in a rational way. This was a big discovery. I used to beat myself up that when somebody would come to me and my first response out of my mouth might not be what it would be after I'd had 10 minutes to think about it. Like I thought it was a personal flaw until I understood the brain science. So when somebody comes to you and they need something or there's some kind of conflict, your first response is out of the reptilian part of your brain. It's out of the part that is just trying to get your own needs met. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. And the same is true of your staff when they respond in that way. It is just the way that our bodies and our minds were set up to work. And there's a whole lot of science behind this that I could go into, but we don't have like 5 hours for that, right? So, but if you want, you can message me and I'll try to link you to it. So we have to have compassion in those moments. And we need to teach our teachers that the same is actually happening to us, that we're really just trying to get through the days, just like you are, just like the teams are. And the more that we can do that and look into this, the more successful we're going to be. And without that, what we're expecting is completely unreasonable. And that is that people will respond perfectly in every situation at every time. Okay? So there is a level of acceptance that it's hard, it's imperfect, and we're all going to be responding to things in a very human way. And the same is also true about parents. So in the beginning of the pandemic, you know, parents were getting laid off. We've actually had, I think, 2 waves of parents that were getting laid off. And in the beginning, there were moments where I do know, like, this expectation. It was like a subtext of our conversations where a parent would call and they would say they'd gotten laid off, and you could hear that what they were expecting was either a reduction in tuition or wanting to be able to keep their spot or things like that. And we were just trying to survive as a business. And there was a point there where I just knew, oh my gosh, it's just so big. As a director, I'm trying to take care of everybody. And I can't also figure out the finances of all my families too. It was just like a boundary that I had to realize. I'd met my limit. I could only do what I could do. So here is where this all comes to. Everything in how we relate to each other when things do not work well. It starts with self-compassion, okay? So there is no person, no relationship, no job, no employer, no team who can fix this and create this for you if you don't create it for yourself, okay? So what happens is we all have these kind of unhealed wounds in our lives, right? Times where our humanness is coming out loud and clear, okay? It may be times that you're irritated or angry, or you don't know how to handle a situation. There's a lot of things, okay, that come up during the day that are related to things that have happened in our past, okay? So I know, just as a director, and I think I can just honestly say this because there's other directors here watching this, you know, every time it's just a weird reaction that I have, because I've come in and turned several schools around, and part of turning a school around is turnover of staff. So I have time somebody comes in if I walk in and I find an envelope on my desk that's sealed, the automatic like fight or flight in me is, oh my gosh, who is quitting now? It is just there. And it may just be, it may even be my own paycheck, you know, but that is my past feeding into that moment. And we have that, all of us, all of the time. It's a trigger. And like I said, in the moment, thank you, Christy. I'm glad that you're out there and you feel that too. In the moment when these hard things happen, you can't just rationally always answer things perfectly. You never are going to, okay? So how do we do this? How do we get all these people interacting in one team and in this stressful situation, okay? It's tough. Compassion is the piece, but it starts with ourselves, okay? So one of the things, there was this moment, we use masks at our school. Our staff wear masks and our children wear masks. And there was a day, and it was towards the beginning of the pandemic, and we were still trying to like acquire masks, if you guys remember. So it was like, I think maybe the first or second week of April. And somehow some of the masks got lost for a day. And I only had 6 or 7 masks. And I think I had like 16 staff members that I needed to put masks on. And I remember going off a little bit and like, guys, where are the masks? How did we lose the masks? And I know that my tone was so much harder than what I meant it to be. And it came out of fear, because at that time we just didn't know a whole lot about COVID. I would still probably feel that way today. But in that moment, I felt that I felt that stress of the fact that we lost those masks. Who today is going to get COVID because of that mistake? That was the pressure that was on my shoulders. And I literally had to go to the staff and go, okay, how do I decide who gets a mask today? You can have a mask because you're working with toddlers and they're up close, but you're with preschool, so you can be a little further away. And the look on the teachers' faces when I couldn't give them one, it was horrific. I mean, I'll tell you, it was a really, really hard moment. And I went home that night and I called a friend of mine. You know, we all need, this is very important. Everybody needs your heart friend, the one who really understands what this job is like. And I've got several. I called one who is like that, who manages people and all of this. And I said, man, I just really failed today. And I told her what had happened. And I said how I had lost my cool, and like that my staff saw a side of me that I don't like them seeing. I don't like it coming out. And, you know, she said to me, you know what, Corey? I can't figure out why it's taken you this so long for that to happen, when you think all the things that you have been handling. And it took me a moment for that to really register inside. And I realized on some level, I have to be compassionate to myself. And I know that my staff probably don't understand that. But just because they don't understand that does not mean that I, you know, don't still need to have compassion for myself, because we're not going to get anywhere. So I was able to forgive myself. And in that moment, also use it to think and be aware of when my staff might have their moments of feeling like they're in crisis, or something is being asked of them where they're not going to have enough to give. Like, what is their fear in the moment of what I'm asking of them? It may be we're trying to do something as a team to kind of like build up the curriculum, and they don't respond well. And I think, okay, what that really is they are feeling like they are doing so much in the classrooms already and they can't give another instant, a little bit more. Well, I may still need to push them a little bit further to do a little bit more, but if I start from understanding where they're at, it's going to help. Okay? So with ourselves, let's just start with ourselves. It's very important to acknowledge what is hard. We are, especially as leaders, we are resilient, and we are the ones that have to come in, and no matter what is going, we still have to come in and make this thing work. If we don't acknowledge the things that are hard, here's what happens is we start to become, it's like, I think the term is like toxic positivity. It is when teachers feel in the classroom, we are just being so positive, like everything is hunky-dory, and we all know it is not hunky-dory right now, right? So we have to be able to say that this is hard, but you can't stay there. There is a piece where we have to accept it. And if we don't accept how hard that this pandemic is, then every day, whatever that thing is that's on your shoulders is going to keep bugging you and bugging you and bugging you and bugging you, because all you're doing is putting your energy toward like resisting it. So it may be that it's the pandemic, or maybe the thing that you're having difficulty with is the turnover. So every day when it happens, hopefully it's not every day, but sometimes it feels like it. You're having that resistance, like, oh my gosh, this field where people come in and out, or oh my gosh, this team where it's like the tardies and da 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 da. You know, when you are getting that constant resistance up in yourself towards that difficult situation, that's wasted energy. Okay, and we just don't have that energy to waste. So, compassionate towards yourself, accepting what is difficult, and then really being able to try in the moment. And I know it is hard. There is nothing easy about it. There is no like quick, cute little phrase I can give you to help you think your way through it. It is just really gosh darn hard work. to meet your staff with compassion and try to see where their fear is in the middle of whatever resistance that they're giving you. Okay? And be really accepting when you make mistakes in how you respond to things, and learning to be a little more accepting when others make mistakes, because we're all just working out of this crazy part of our brain, the reptilian brain, that we're just trying to protect ourselves and make our way through it. So, but here's the part where those mistakes happen and the difficulties happen, okay? When that happens for us and when it happens for our team, somehow the message has to be that you are still worthy. And when you do identify, or you do have to give feedback to somebody, you know, they may not have done all this deep inner work, because it is deep inner work, deep, like deeper than deep. They may not be where you are yet. It does start with you as a leader, and you can start to teach your team about this. So when you are giving feedback in this process, or you're having these tough moments, there are ways to still show that that person is worthy. They may need to hear it. So, you know, when you've talked to somebody about being late, you know, and you've really been saying how it really affects, especially now with how we're having to bring kids back and forth, and one person late can really make it hard on the screening station. Making sure that you say something like, I know that tardiness is not all of who you are. I know you don't want to put that pressure on others, and I know it must feel bad to come in and walk in late in front of everybody. I don't want you to feel that way anymore. And you deserve better, because you're a great teacher, and this is one aspect for you to work on. You'll be much more successful than just kind of getting down on them, right? So you're still holding them accountable. You're not saying it's okay. You're being really truthful of how hard that is on the team. But you're just saying it's just one piece. So, okay, so in those tough moments, just things to think through. Number one, see if you can cut them some slack, especially if it's regarding how somebody has responded. I kind of give people this thing of, okay, it's okay to respond poorly, you know, to something, and then let's see where you are 2 days later. Like, have you come out of that? Have you kind of figured out a different way to approach the same situation? Because they just may be responding out of that fight or flight. The next part is your own words. If you have to call attention to somebody on something, make sure you're adding in some kind of message of, you belong, you are part of our team, you are worthy, and you are valuable. And it's hard, guys. That is not always easy, especially when it's like the 10th time that you've given feedback to somebody. But it's still really, really important. The next thing is boundaries. There are boundaries. Like, we're not expected to be these angels with perfect crowns and all that, okay, who can just take in the weight of everybody around us. That's the whole point of this. You have to decide what of this issue, whether it's a parent or whether it's your staff member, what of this interaction is actually you, and what is something that is not you. I know there was a moment, I'll just be honest, there was a moment a staff person came up to me, and I do a lot of lies. I mean, I talk a lot to people, and sometimes my staff watch. Most of the time they don't, because it's not fun listening to your boss, really. I probably wouldn't either. But she was going through a hard time, and it was a time that our team was having a hard time with the pandemic protocols. And to be honest, a lot of my job during that time was going around and reminding people, hey, you can't walk out without a mask on. Hey, that wasn't 6 feet. And like, really, it's not fun. And you are kind of the cop when you're learning something new on that. And collectively, it was tough. And I remember one of my employees said, we don't want this Corey. We want the Corey who's online, the person who talks to people. And I was like, but that's a totally different situation, right? When I talk to this, y'all, I mean, you haven't come late and affected my screening station, so you're not going to see the irritable me. You know, I had to realize that there was something there to delve into further. And this employee who really kind of got upset, turned out later was having a lot of family issues, serious difficulties. And then I could go, oh, so in retrospect, it was just projecting onto me, right? That may be happening now. I was able to discover it later, but probably there are a lot of times that happens and we don't even discover it all, okay? So having boundaries. There is so much that I can do to support you, and I can help you, but it's not up to me to find your motivation for you. It's not up to me to solve every mental health issue of my employees. There is a piece that they have to take. And then finally, there is a point where if you have tried to work on this enough, it may be time that this just isn't a good match anymore. And I think I realized somewhere in maybe a month or two into the pandemic, like what is required and what is needed of employees right now, of teachers, is a bit of a different skill set. Or there are some new skills that we didn't need as much in the same way before. So now with the pressure that's on us, if you're not willing to follow a safety protocol, like a really basic one, and you're gonna kind of fight it, it's just not gonna work. So there may be times that you have to set the ultimate boundary, which is, I'm not sure this is gonna work out for you to be on the team anymore if you've tried a number of things. The thing is even there to do it with compassion. Because the reality is many of our staff members are quite young, and this may be their first job or second job. And they may just not be at their place in development of understanding what it truly is like to be on a team. And so if you do have to make that decision and terminate somebody, please do it with compassion, because it is a tough pill to swallow, and those of us who have had to terminate people before, it's a tough moment. And you can kind of see that sometimes people will hold their head high and act like it's not happening. And it's just a rough, hard moment to see, and just do our best to send good thoughts and hope that this in some way creates some growth for them. So as I start to kind of pull this together, and I'll start taking some questions, anything that might be out there. This is not about cute gifts. It's not even about a really finely tuned vision statement. It is not about a really thoughtfully written handbook. This is human work. It's really, really deep, hard human work that we have to do. It's not something I can give you in half an hour. This is a starting point to think about. But how we relate to each other and how we relate to these kids ultimately goes back down into these children. It is the exact same skills that we will use when working with a child who's afraid, or a child who is having separation anxiety, or a child who is angry. It is the exact same process with children. So compassion is at the center, and everything we do can be thought in that way. So that's kind of what I have here. I'm just wondering if anybody has like a question or any kind of discussion.
Corey, we'll jump right to questions in just a bit. One of the things that you said resonated with me. We're managing the hearts and souls of employees that they put in a great amount of work and dedication. They're serving people, so getting their minds right. managing them with dignity is massive. I think oftentimes as a products company, we're asked by our customers to build things. And we have a great product team. One of the things that we built was, and we're actually taking a wait list for this. So if you're interested in a scheduling, time off, payroll, human capital management platform that will allow you to see into the future, staff your rooms, please let us know. This thing it's beautiful. As you can see, it's super easy to use. And when you add shifts, and it's built out by classrooms. So I'm sure, Corey, in your time, you've built out a number of wonky spreadsheets, but this thing is super intelligent. It will tell you when an employee has a conflict and can't work certain hours, or if they've requested time off. Also, employees have an app. So if they need time off, they clock in and clock out on the app. It's really an amazing tool. But that said, I wanted to just let everybody know before we dive into questions and put a nice bow on this. We're currently building our waiting list for this tool right now. Please let us know if you want to be on that wait list. Also, we're running a promotion. So we know that many of you guys are on the runway and you're trying to get the business back into the air. So what we're doing, we're allowing new centers to come on board for 6 months free. So please, and you know, we know many of you are on ProCare and Tadpoles, and we're a replacement for both those platforms. We will help you with the migration. Again, we want to be here to help you get the business back. But great presentation, Corey. You said a number of things that resonated with me. By the way, I was super obedient with the fire drill parameters, and they came and knocked on the door. I was on mute, and they were able to do their thing and make sure that we don't burn up in a fire if it does happen. So all you directors out there that want me to comply, I did it, and I was super glad to see that we've tested and everything's in working order. But let's transition into some questions. So it's hard now with so many additional tasks for directors and teachers. How do you keep in communication with your staff? And do you schedule regular meetings with them or check in on their classrooms more? Any thoughts there?
Okay, so I actually have created, we've had to reduce our hours. So normally we're 7 to 6 and we are working 8 to 5, or open for children. And what we do now is we actually start at 7:45. And so normally our staff would get an hour lunch break. Now they're actually getting an hour and 15 minutes. And so every day we're getting a 15-minute little moment where it might be, okay, guys, this is what was so great about yesterday. Or it might be, you know, here's a struggle. How are you guys feeling about it? And that has been a good contact for us. In the past, when we were doing our normal business hours, I had what was called a daily sheet. And that would go out and it would have kind of little training tip at the top. And it would have little notes about who's out and what schedule changes and reminders about stuff. And that certainly helped. But really, I think the most important thing when you start to see that something's not working right, something feels awkward, or there's like a weird dynamic, the most important thing is being okay, start having the difficult conversation and saying what's going on. And it is definitely more challenging because of the pandemic protocols and only certain people can go into rooms. And maybe it is that we just need to be more open, reminding teachers about that. I know that I've been doing one strategy I've been using a lot with the staff that seems to help. So what can happen is the director is in the middle of everybody else's anxiety, right? And so sometimes you feel like you're like, oh my gosh, I'm getting fired at by so many different people. And it's important to remind everybody the way things are now are not how we want them to be. Like, I don't want a day where my staff doesn't have a lunch break. I try under all circumstances for that not to happen, but it does sometimes happen. So when you're kind of delivering some difficult news for the day, is to say, this isn't how I would have it. And it just helps remind them that that you are on their side. This is going to be a difficult day for whatever reason, but we're going to get through it together.
Corey, I love that you're so in touch with the brain science. I think that these conversations have always been super nuanced, right? Like, every employee is completely different. And if you're taking the approach of, let's consider kind of the cognitive science, the brain science here. Let's consider some more of the emotional cascading dependencies that exist, that didn't exist a year ago. If you push the rewind to today's date in 2019, we had no idea any of this would exist. Last week was Mental Health Awareness Week. What are you doing for your staff mental health during this time, above and beyond things that you've mentioned? I mean, you mentioned brain science, really dialing in on the nuanced nature of each employee. Are there any other big ones? I know my personal one is exercise. So I block out 2 hours a day, every day, to go and exercise. By the way, I'm about 25 pounds lighter than I was 6 months ago because of that.
What?
So that's
now
been awesome.
You're showing off, Scott.
I know.
No,
I love Buffalo.
Good for you.
Thank you. But any tips there on the mental health side? Is there anything we can prioritize?
Okay. Well, I think we have to first, when it comes to acceptance, the reality is, with the pay where it is, and people who, especially if there are teachers who do not have access to a health plan, that are many of our employees come from no access to mental health care. And that can be very tough from day to day. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's the director's job to handle all the mental health. That we have to look at this differently. I do think there are things that we can learn about trauma-informed care. If you haven't read anything on that, that will help you a lot understand if you ever have employees who have issues with authority. Sometimes it can be related to trauma. It will help you handle things. And when you learn how to handle things, it does help them. But the next part is really trying to find, and maybe being ready to have it, the resources for reduced counseling that's on a sliding scale and all of that. And we can learn more about self-care and kind of teaching some of those skills. But self-care, again, the really deep level of self-care is more than taking a bubble bath, right? It is really going back to that brain science and understanding. Where we get off course is when we are day after day after day in that fight mode, and it messes up our immune system and our central nervous system. And you've got to find a way to retreat and heal. So there's a lot of stuff that you can learn about being out in nature. I've done things, I've done some of these talks on my ECE page, where I talked about how important crafts and hobbies are and what that can do for our brain, and things, being out in nature, sound things that you can do. Basically kind of giving people, introducing them to some topics. So it's a lot of different things that they can choose from, and any one of those might help them.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think positioning us all having awareness that the human condition right now is in a place of distress that we've never seen. there are so many studies about how beneficial pair bonding is, and just bonding within community. I mean, we are genetically engineered to love each other, care about each other,
Mhm.
not necessarily be in a state of panic for extended periods of time. So I think another important lesson is just kind of being aware of that and giving everybody a break, and knowing that you need to lean into moving them into a place to where they can be in that place of not panicking, or
Yeah.
not stress.
Well, and what I
And
take from that, Scott, is how important that sense of bonding or belonging and being part of a tribe, which is the cool thing about working in childcare versus, I mean, I know elementary, they have teams in that, but, you know, we are working more directly side by side than most educational arrangements. And many people come to childcare and stay in childcare because of that tribe aspect. So whatever we can do to kind of strengthen that message will definitely help the mental health side, I think.
Well, Corey, awesome, great information. I'm always so encouraged with our webinars, because I know your message comes from such a place of love, nurture, maternal instinct, whatever you want to call it. But again, I love the components of helping everybody move forward and understand what the criticality of being part of a tribe is, and how important educators are in our world, bringing our economy back. Again, I say it so many, my staff makes fun of us, but building bodies, souls, and minds, having the most important job in the world. Once again, thank you so much. Great content. Everybody, if you can, give her by the way, the sound effect, it's called DJ Air Horn. Just so you get this one right here. Yeah, so that is, thank you, Corey. And as I mentioned before, check out all of our content on YouTube. Join us in our Facebook group, KT Childcare Connect, and join our mailing list, which is associated with our blog. We look forward to seeing you all again. We love you all. We're there with you. Please reach out if we can be of any help. And once again, Corey, thank you so much.
Thank you. Y'all have a great day. It's going to be okay. You're going to be okay.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.